Economics of Aging Korea. We have a very long name, but thank you for coming here this Friday afternoon, and thank you to Claire for inviting me to be the MC-moderator this afternoon. I will welcome Claire first to give an introduction.
Hello, everybody. I'm so pleased to be here. First, to see so many faces, familiar faces, and also to know that these are really the industry players. I haven't met Kim Sam for a while now, and the good work that you do, I just spoke to Jason for in 5 minutes, and with 800 sound bites, told me about the 3 tracks that they are actually doing. Nursing home, rehab center, and etc. And I also then learned from a friend here, coming from the Indian Association, supporting Swami. And I had thought, Swami, okay, so that's an Indian association. No, it's actually Chinese in origin, but it's a very long name with sunshine. It's my ignorance. And then what I feel is important, and the job for SFP is really to help to create that platform for industry collaboration. And of course, to introduce David then to Jiaming to look at big analytics, and then from the big analytics to identify what are the challenges, and therein find the solutions on aging. I think today we're here really to be that platform. You are the persons whom we hope to learn from and to gather information from in order to help us shape what we think are solutions. And I think each one at different levels are offering different models. And we are going to hear from some of our experts. And this is my honor now to introduce Dr. Professor Bryce Houle, the Dean School of Economics and Director from Korea, to give you the brief background on Korea and the Singapore Life panel, which is a long-term study of Singapore's aging trends that they are working on. We know that we are aging, and some of the statistics that we have been shown, it's quite frightening. Although Edward very quickly reminded me, we are not yet the old age. We are still middle age. Japan society has redefined age. Old only starts from 75. So we are happily still middle age. And you are, all the rest of you, that table 5 in particular, you are young. So this is a happy note. But I think that we are definitely aging faster than any Asian Pacific society. There's therefore an urgent need to look at different models to service our needs. And I think we are there, and yet we are not there. And there's one example that we have gone to, was to have visited Kampong Wellness in Nee Soon. This is a ground-up community initiative, and there's encouraging signs from the MOH as well as from the hospitals to look more at all these ground-up community initiatives. And there are many other models I think which you all can share. So without much ado, I'd like to invite Professor Houle to give us his first presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Very nice to see you all here. I met Claire shortly after I arrived in Singapore, in fact, early 2012. And in the course of conversation, Claire asked me what I thought was the most important challenge for Singapore. I think I got a B- on that pop quiz. And ever since, I've been trying to raise my GPA. And I think Korea and the research we're doing on aging, the Singapore Life panel, is going to be my submission for a class project, maybe even my final exam. So I hope I do better than B- this time. This is going to be a very brief coverage. I'll try to get out of the way here. A brief coverage of something that's really quite complicated, but I hope that it'll be enough to convey the essence of what we're doing. I know some of you have already seen or heard some of this before, so I'll be quick. The origination Korea and the SLP actually goes back to not very long after I had that conversation with Claire. It was really a confluence of two things. We were thinking about what would be a good target, a good subject for a long-term major research program, and to partner that, something that was of really significant importance for Singapore. And aging was, in fact, the subject. Much more important, much more complicated than I realized at the time. And I'm still learning about it. I'm coming here this afternoon, partly, if not mostly, to try to learn more. Because as you'll see when I talk a little bit more about the SLP, we're very much open to new ways of thinking about it, new ideas for what it is that we can actually focus on in terms of both the information gathering that we do and also the research carried out on that basis. That was back in, this really started in 2012, and Korea came into being in 2014. And at that point, we embarked on this very large project. And after about a year, we started making operational our information gathering, and that's what we refer to as the Singapore Life Panel. So this is a cohort study. It's a longitudinal study of a large number of Singaporeans. About 10,000 Singaporean households is what we started with, looking at individuals between 50 and 70. We chose that range because obviously we had to limit how many we were having on the survey, but we were focusing on pre-retirement, the transition into retirement, and beyond. And our initial focus was on retirement adequacy, our initial focus, and it's still really our principal focus, to understand the factors that influence, that impact financial adequacy in retirement and the well-being of aging Singaporeans. But the intent is that over time, and we're really in this phase now, we will be able to broaden the scope of that study and the data collection to encompass other aspects of not only of retirement, but of aging in general. So to bring in disciplines other than economics, sociology, psychology, business. We're not medical people, but we do have potential collaborations there also. There's an enormous amount of work to do, as everybody understands, and we certainly won't embrace it all, but we'll be making as much of a contribution as we can. So it's a cohort study. All of it is being conducted online. And part of the reason for that, or a reflection of that, is that we're doing this monthly. This is a high-frequency study. So that top line there, those three things sort of go together. This is what makes the Singapore Life Panel unique. There's nothing like it anywhere else. We did a baseline in the middle of 2015, July of 2015, and since then we have had 26 monthly waves. We did September, this one wave just finished was number 26. So we've got a tremendous amount of data, more than 200,000 survey individual times months. And a very, very large number of variables that I'll come back to in a moment. We have, where is it? Here it is. Our baseline gave us really the initial conditions, demographics, housing situation, family structure, household structure. And in their monthly surveys, we have a core module, a set of questions, quite a big set of questions, 100-odd questions, that we run every month. Okay? And in addition, less frequently, the things we're looking for every month, income and spending, marital status and so on, work and other factors, the health status, these are things that can change quite easily from month to month, which is why we're doing it so frequently. Less frequently, we survey in addition some of these other items like subjective well-being, insurance, and various government schemes to see what impact those are having. Once a year, we have, in addition to the core, we have a very large module which basically asks our respondents to tell us everything about what they have financially, to divest themselves, at least in terms of information, of all of their assets. And occasionally we have one-off modules. These are targeted. These are to look at particular topics, particular issues that have arisen. So we've had them on. You can read it there: financial literacy and various other special topics. I've already indicated something about the reasons for a monthly survey. In essence, what this is allowing us to do is observe in real time what is happening to this cohort. We can see in particular when some event occurs in an individual's life. It could be a health shock. Somebody gets diagnosed with diabetes, for example. And we can see the effect. We can date that event and see what the impact is subsequently. We're looking primarily at financial variables, but also, as you've seen, things like subjective well-being and so on. We can see how those things change as people experience these shocks. And the fact that it's high frequency means that we can investigate things very, very quickly. We don't have to wait. And once we've fielded the module and had the information come in on the internet, then we're able to analyze that information. In particular, we can see how policies are working and how things might, in fact, influence the shape of policy. We've got a lot of students working for us. They do get paid. They're not purely volunteers, but they're helping us by communicating with respondents in various ways, including helping the elderly who are not familiar with internet use to actually complete their surveys. So they might go out to meet them in the libraries around Singapore, or they might handle it over the phone. But ultimately everything is online, as I noted earlier. We make everything as accessible as possible. We've got everything going out in 4 languages, all communications, including the survey, in 4 languages, and we give lots of opportunities for the respondents, lots of access for completing the survey. Let me skip over this. This is a picture of our success, as it were, in terms of the response rate from this cohort. And the first thing you're going to see, you'll run your eye up the left-hand column, of course, but the most obvious thing here is how steady the response has been. So this is after more than 2 years, we're still getting 8,000 a month responding. Out of, I would estimate something like 10,500 individuals. So it's not all individuals every month. A lot of them have been with us almost every month, but others come in and out. They miss a month here or there. But as you can see, remarkably steady, 8,000. I mentioned before, the second bullet point here is really a reference to the spike you can see in January of 2016. That's when we first, this is actually quite remarkable in itself. That was the first time we asked the asset, we posed the asset module, asking people to tell us about everything they owned. And we weren't sure what to expect. The price was a bit higher. We had to pay more because it was a much longer survey. But as you can see, that was actually the best response we've had since we started. So that was very encouraging. So we have this high-frequency internet-based survey. We can do, consequently, what you cannot do if you're doing a survey using any of the standard methods. You cannot manage something like 8,000 to 10,000 people on a monthly survey unless you've got internet use. You can't go and knock on 8,000, 10,000 doors every month. So this is made feasible by the fact that it's internet-based. It enables us to get information on subjective things, how people think and how people behave, which otherwise could only be gained by a very costly and almost impossible task of going and talking to them all. So we've got sort of direct access to that. And as I mentioned earlier, once we get the information, it becomes the data becomes available very quickly to our researchers. We don't have to wait a year or two for the outcome of a survey like the retirement and health study. We've got things immediately, and it can be made available to researchers and to interested parties within a matter of days or weeks. It is, in fact, the largest survey of its kind. The cohort we have is population representative. I'll show you some one or two pictures in a moment to demonstrate that aspect. And it's not only very large, it also has, because we have such flexibility, it also has great scope. Let me just flick through that in the interest of time. We always check, whenever there's official data on any aspect that we're looking at, we check the data we're getting with the official data. So there's an example of the distribution of housing types in our sample. And you can see it's very, very close to the government's data on this. So we have a number of these comparisons as a confirmation of the data and of our data integrity. So there's monthly income. There's almost identical distributions, ours and the official. It's the same with income. It's the same with gender, with race, with marital status. All of these things that are have official statistics line up almost identically with our sample. So this is a picture of the whole schema, as it were. Down the right-hand side, you'll see the kinds of things that determine the respondents' economic situation, and these are the things that we're gathering information on. On the other side, you'll see the risks that are going to impact the household, impact the individual and the household, in particular health, work, marital status, marital situation, and so on. And these all feed in to the adequacy of the individual, the household, for financing retirement, which is measured by those things at the bottom. Or these are different ways of different dimensions of retirement preparedness. So I'll let you run your eye over that. I won't read it all. These are the things that we're collecting all the time. And we're carrying out a large number of research projects currently. It's just a small sample of it. And thank you. Can I also just repeat that for us it is really important to hear from all the diverse groups in the community coming from different sectors to what it is that people are concerned about, issues that we can potentially shed light on through the information that we gather and the research that we can potentially do. So as I said, I'm here this afternoon. I've done my speaking. I'm here as a student again, looking to learn from what all of you have to say. Thank you.
So we're supposed to have discussions. I thought I would give a very quick background. I think Bryce gave a very quick overview of the data we have and what we all do here. Let me just pinpoint other than Bryce, Steve Hoskins there and Faisal Azhar, both from Korea, who know the data very well. So feel free to catch them and get more information. Now, why are we invited, other than Claire being so nice to me all the time, to a roundtable that really discusses community care models and best practices? I think it goes down to money, right? If people are not financially adequate, they will not have the financial adequacy to even go to the hospital or caregiving models or enjoy any of the best services you can all offer. So I'm ready to throw some questions. Now, after a quick discussion with Claire and also with Julie, who has done a fantastic job for organizing this, and Cecilia there from Korea, thank you very much. I'm going to throw some 5 questions for our Roundtable 1. And the idea is, instead of, we all discuss in a small table here, feel free to raise your hands and we can just have a free discussion among all tables. That sounds okay? So, let me go with, I will just talk very quickly. I think you guys are all experts here. We are from another, discipline. But really, institutional care, as I'm very lucky to sit next to Dr. Chan this time. Institutional care, whether it's hospital or nursing homes, really is very costly. And I'm from the States. The issue we have is really the state's data show that if you want to get a private room, and by the way, mind you, this is average across different states in America, it will cost you roughly $91,000 US per year. And that's hugely unaffordable if you think how low savings, how low the savings really everybody have. So long-term care, and in Japan, as the doctors here all know much better than me, elderlies go to the hospitals and they don't tend to leave in a short period of time, which incur a huge amount of expense. So we have a problem here. How can we make it affordable while giving them good care, right? That's all we're all here. Now, I was instructed by Claire that you all have a task this afternoon. Now she appeared to be surprised. She told me just now. That I'm supposed to throw these questions, and by the end of today's roundtable, you're supposed to come up with 3 viable options. 3 suggestions. Not much, just 3. For us all to share, which I think is a great, quantifiable result of today's roundtable. So, we go from institutional care, then in the States it's very popular now, I think it's getting popular here, correct if I'm wrong, home care. My father-in-law, in fact, who lives in LA, we have home care for him. It's supposed to be, in the States, it will be roughly $41,000 on average US per year. You have, it cater to different kinds of needs, depend on your condition, but then there is a lot of criticism on who is the case management, how this is all monitored, right? And then we have integrated care. I know in Singapore we have this wonderful organization, AIC, that really integrates all this service together and give the portal, right? So, looking forward to the discussion this afternoon. We're going to Roundtable Discussion 1. Now, I'm not so sure whether you all have the program in front of you, and if I may just remind you to take a look at that for a second. Roundtable 1 is supposed to be, we're supposed to talk about and discuss community care models and best practices, right? Now, I'm ready to throw my questions. Question number 1, I understand this is like a trick question. I'm throwing 5 questions. It's not possible for anyone to actually remember this, right? So I'll go slow, and please do tell me if this is too fast. Number 1, what are the challenges facing institutional care today in Singapore? I'm looking at you, doctor. And what are some of the overseas and local best practices we can learn? I think learn from this is a more general lay of the land. Second question, what can institutional care providers, so nursing homes and hospitals, for example, do to drive down costs and make operations more affordable, efficient for elderlies who need such services? Please don't leave from that door. I still have 3 questions, okay? Question number 3. How can governments and communities improve and collaborate to effectively communicate new policies or new community services or offerings to the elderlies in our community? I think this question is more specific in the Singapore cases. I know Singapore has a lot of policies. It changes very fast, partly the reason why SLP, like my boss just explained, we run it month to month. From our survey, we have discovered that a lot of elderlies don't even know what services there are, which is hugely inefficient when it comes to assessment and also for government, right? And also for offerings. So this is that question. Number 4, with many wellness programs initiated in Singapore, just think about for the past 5 years, right? What are some of the major challenges facing community programs moving forward, and how can the community come together to address these concerns and challenges? Okay, last one. Preventative programs. My mother is a geriatrician, so I know we all say that preventative programs, you can't stop aging, but it's about please don't age when you're in your 50s, when you're not supposed to have certain symptoms, right, until your 70s. So preventative programs, we can all agree, is important. Preventative programs are instrumental in helping save high medical bills generated by acute care or last-minute emergency care later in life. What are the current community or hospital programs for preventative care and screening? Claire already mentioned Alexandra House Campbell Wellness Program, but we were just wondering whether there are others. Okay, those are the programs. Those are my questions, sorry. And we shall discuss. I'll have Claire sit here, so.
I'm going to help out here. I didn't remember the questions, do you? No. So we have Priyanka here. Priyanka is one of the board members of SFP. And we have Violet over this table, also a board member of SFP. And for the rest who may not know SFP, what we do a lot. Why we do, and why is a women's group, so-called, doing something about, they can hear me, do something on aging. Because I think we are trying to gather women's inputs to the way the society is organized for men and women. Basically, it's really, that's why we are questioning all the what, the why, and the how all over again. So we have done things like bringing some of our participants to one-room flat and see how people live. I brought my daughter, I brought all the second generation young people who are so comfortable and never been to a one-room flat in Bukit Ho Swee. We brought them to a water plant to see the importance of water. But remember people, this is very bad. You put all the pioneer generations on this thing. So only Kim San, Albert and myself remember that we had to queue for water in Singapore, remember? None of these young people know what it's all about. So thank you for the discrimination. But we brought them to look at the volume and treatment of water. So this time we are actually re-looking at livable cities. and sustainable cities. And one of the targets is to look at whether the city deliver its promise to give quality life to older people. Because when I read this book, I don't think many people have seen this book. Have you? Really? Edward, you did. This was done actually in 2014. It's a roundtable discussion like today, and it consists of six city planners, decision participants like Liu Taiker and all that, and they have some of the issues here. And therefore what I'll do is that I would like some to share with what I feel they are practitioners already in this field, very quickly. So we have sort of an elevator mode. And so I'm not going to ask you to volunteer. I'm going to pick because I want to know. We start from there. Then we will see this already there is a framework here on land use, on inclusiveness, and on creating the city of all ages. And there are lots of strategies being outlined here till 2030 to be realized. As to how we're going to mark the report book, for this roundtable in 2014, we are now in 2017, still early. 2030, can we realize all these targets? I don't know. But let's first hear some of the experts from the industry. Will that do?
Yeah.
You're dying to hear one another, right? Okay. Let's start with, I think I'll start with the pioneer generation. The pioneer middle. Kim-san, please.
Well, we have now established about 90 services and programs island-wide. So it's pretty very inclusive from the very young, those even in the mother's womb, because we have counseling for the mothers who want to abort. So if abortion crisis counseling. But leaving that aside, we started off very young, those epic centers, children who are born with a lot of disabilities. So we have 800 students under our 4 programs. Then we have the normal children who go to childcare centers, before after school care centers. And then we have the youth program. Then we go on to the more aging ones. So for the aging group, we have practically the whole program required. First, we have the community hospital. That is, the CEO is here, Stella. That is the Ang Mo Kio Taiwan Hospital. That looks after people who are brought down from the acute hospitals. So they come to a hospital to stay for maybe 30 days, 35 days. And we're supposed to bring them back to health, to rehabilitate them so they can go back home. Of course, part of the process is we train their caregivers as well. You can't get a person to go back and say, you're okay, but there's nobody who knows how to look after them at home. So we train the caregivers, whether it's their maid or whether it's a husband or the wife or a daughter or son-in-law. So the hospital part is basically like a hospital. It looks after the entire services, medical, nursing, therapy, and social work programs for them to live comfortably and improve themselves in their health in the hospital. So having done that, then they can step down to a nursing home, and we have the Aukang nursing home. So again, that runs a whole spectrum of things, nursing, medical, but basically nursing and looking after them well, make sure they exercise, they live as happily and as healthily as possible. So there are a lot of programs, day programs, to make sure that they are totally involved, except those who are lying in bed and cannot move. But even then, therapy will be there to serve them. And from down, it goes down to the community. So we have about 16 senior activity centers. These are basically for the more healthy adults. But they're all at the one-room flat areas, because government says that SACs are supposed to serve only the one-room rental people who are poorer. I think that's fair. So we run 15 of these services, and that is a whole range of services. From every morning you come in, you do exercises, you do Tai Chi, you do Zumba, whatever it is. Then from drinking coffee or free on the house, reading newspapers, watch TV, play games, outings, have a lunch and things like that. So the whole works where anyone who is able to look after himself or herself can come down every day. Of course, outings are very important. We bring them to places where they want to see, places of worship where they can learn to respect each other.
Can I interrupt you
Sure,
here then? Then I think they've done incredible work. So I ask you 3 things you would like
Sure.
to see happening more. What 3 things you will need
Okay.
to improve the organization's efficiency?
Okay. Firstly, I'll say the needs of the people are there. There are a lot of people who are moved back from the hospital to their home. Home care is very important. And I think we have done a lot of home care. Home care means we bring people from the acute hospitals back to their home. There are a few programs on this. One is called the interim care. That is, we bring down people from the acute hospitals where they are supposed to be discharged, but cannot be discharged because there's no caregiver. So we bring them home, we provide the interim, that means temporary care. So we provide our people. At the beginning part, 3 years ago, we asked to do 24-hour service for 7 days, meaning our staff will stay in the patient's home for 7 days, 24 hours. But now it's 12 hours. So the whole thing is make sure that their whole day's living is looked after. In the morning, they wake up, they go to the toilet, they brush their teeth, they wash their face, to breakfast, to taking medicine, lunch, dinner, go walking if they can, if not to exercise, bathe them, and make sure they get good help for the toiletry things. So that is part of interim care, and it will be quite interesting to know that in the last 2.5 years to 3, we have brought down about 3,000 over people from the acute hospitals back to their own homes. So without this, Kotek Park Hospital is only about 600 overbedded hospital. So about 5 times Kotek Park Hospital's patients were brought them home. And I think it's a wonderful thing, and now it's a recognized thing, very important. And besides that, then therefore, we ensure that those who are not from the hospitals are also looked after. So we provide home care, meaning we bring them from the house, from the homes, to see doctors in the hospital or to the clinics, and then wait for them to take the medicine, bring them home.
So your 900 staff are the ones that do this?
1,000 over staff, yeah.
You have 1,000 staff that bring them
Sorry, altogether 2,000 over staff.
to bring them to home and from home to bring to hospital?
Yes, there are not that many, maybe about 50, 60 of them. So, to bring a person to see a doctor is not easy. First, you need a van to bring them. Second, you need a driver. And third, you need a caregiver to bring the person from the hospital, go down to see the doctor, from the doctor to go and take medicine at the pharmacy, and then bring him home using our van again. So it's about how a day's work. So you can see it needs a lot of time, effort, and manpower. And of course, you may call it wastage because our persons are waiting at the hospital for them to see the doctor, for them to take the medicine from the pharmacy. Maybe you can improve on that. How to do it?
Okay.
Yeah. How to do it? It's very difficult to say. And also we prepare for 600 over people every day. We deliver meals to their homes. Once for lunch, second time for dinner. About 600 people. And again, there is not easy. You have to have a kitchen. You have to employ cooks. You have to employ drivers again, drivers and person to deliver. But we're very happy we enjoy doing all these things because at the time we started this, there was no funding. Anyway, authorities said no funding. So we started nonetheless. We started on April 1st. So it's not part of April Fool, but it was meant to be serious. And we started, and after a while, they started funding, we applied, and certain parts were given, and now they give us more. So we have no complaint about that now. But there are a lot of people out there who may be underserved for their food. We have to make sure in our food program that we have nutritionists to ensure that the food has proper nutrition and that we properly cook for those who actually have heart problems, there be less salt and so on and so forth. So it needs a lot of work, but I think it's worthwhile. So no matter how difficult it is, you can feel that you're really serving somebody and making good their life. Then our home care means our staff will go to the person's home, bathe the person, do the laundry, clean up the house, and do everything that is required for the home.
So you actually run a home care professional training service?
Yes. home care, the whole works, the whole of home care to interim care, actually from A to Z, including bringing their clothing back for laundry. They will deliver back.
Thank you. We'll come back to you. Who else in the various organizations actually do home care training services? Would you like to share?
South Foundation. Yeah. So,
South Foundation.
yeah. So my name is Wai Chong. I started as a home care physician in 2000, year 2000. So we provide team-managed home-based primary care. So mainly serving seniors who are vulnerable, who have got limited bandwidth, and providing visiting doctors, nurses, social workers with the philosophies of primary care bringing to the doorstep. And now we have a training academy that does training for BIC, Learning Institute. So we do advanced primary care for homebound elders, a modular course. There's one introduction, there's one for nurse, one for social workers, and there's one in the making for doctors. And then there's one for team, because a lot of professionals from the schools, they do not know how to work together. So this is crucial. And then there are some subspecialty modules. So we have one for end of life. This November, we're collaborating with ADA to do one for dementia care. And then there are some in the making on how to integrate inter-RI assessment instrument, how do you manage elder abuse, and then others according to the requirement of the community. So we do training and then we practice home-based primary care. There's another relatively new model of care that is experimented with Ministry of Health called integrated home and day care, which is a package kind of bundle funding that provides center-based care that includes home-based care. So that we are also experimenting with this.
Means they stay at home?
It's like a nursing home, but the bed is their own home. They come to the day center for nursing home services. And then if they are sick and not well, they can see the doctor in the center, or if they are too sick to come to the center, we can have a nurse that will visit them at home, or a doctor to visit them at home. And if they don't come to the center too many times, and they will transit into the home-based care program.
How do you connect?
We are all in the same place, in the same doctor.
Physical?
Yeah.
Or internet?
So we use WhatsApp, we use telephone, we use handphone, that's all. There's no telehealth facility yet. We've experimented with this, but it didn't quite work unless we can have a universal call center, which Eastern Health Alliance, I understand, is actually working on, and I think this will revolutionize home care.
Who is using it?
Eastern Health Alliance, CGH, is starting with it, and I think call center is a missing link.
Call center.
Call center is a missing
That is technology.
For technology to have a house, technology cannot exist without infrastructure.
Right.
You can all sorts of innovations. If there's nobody to look out for people, it will not make business sense. So I think the call center is something that I really look forward to.
Okay, so you see that as one
important piece.
What other two wishes you would like for your service?
Okay, so I feel we need to somehow integrate finance.
Integrate?
Financing.
Financing.
I mean, aging is very big, it's not just long-term care. So I think the important pieces is the philosophy of care is one thing, manpower training is the other, and the manpower training you have to sort of reinvent the manpower of the future. They have to think in a team, they need to learn how to learn and focus on soft skills and focus on the spirit of a person. So this, I think, all the schools, medical school, nursing school, social, everybody need to think like that. So training, philosophy of care, but more importantly is the integration of financing, both in primary care, care management, and long-term care as a group. So the IHDC is a good experiment that the government is doing. So in order to, you need to sort of, you should not incentivize episodic care, which is what we're doing now.
Incentivizing?
Episodic care.
Episodic care.
So I see a doctor, I get funded. The more I see, the more I get funded, right?
Yeah.
So for a doctor, the more you see me, the more I get paid. So I'd rather you see me more often, So whereas if you were to pay, actually this is not new. This idea is very well known in most of the developed areas. It's a capitation kind of funding. But in order to make it work, you need to have a very robust way of assessing what does it mean when you say somebody is difficult to take care of? You cannot leave it to the doctors, they'll make it too medical. It has to be biopsychosocial. And it cannot be just nursing, because in the end, you just make a person dependent on you. So it has to be really focused on this motivation, it has to be social. You have to bring a family together as well. You cannot just leave it to the professional. So you have to somehow incentivize the right way of preventive care, health promotion.
Whose work would that be?
I think it's all of us. Aging is very interesting. Aging brings all of us together. You cannot leave it to the doctors or the economists or the nurse or just the government alone. So all of us need to come together and decide what is really the goal that we're trying to do. So all the things that we discussed, the older people need to be represented. So with that, and then we come together and then we do an assessment that is really valid and accurate, and then to really know that this person, the cost to the whole system is this amount. This person, the cost of the system is this amount. And in Denmark, they have got 10 categories. In Japan, it's like 8, and then Holland is also like 10. Singapore, previously, we have got these 4 stages, which is based on the nursing home system, which it's not valid in the community. So we need to create something like that. So we need a standardized assessment instrument and a standardized way of categorizing complexity of care, which has to be valid and accurate. And then you can have either paying to a provider that pool the resources and the risk and then manage the person well. So when the person is well, you keep the savings. When the person is always falling apart, then you have to pay for the cost of care. Or you can even evolve to the Australian or the Hong Kong model where the user own the whole budget themselves. So it's considered.
Dr. Ng, I think you are a gem in our society. And I'm certainly going to speak to you more often. And I think that we found just one subject for further research the next round.
That's good.
Very
If you can investigate on this bundle payment, what is the most rational way of this bundle payment? I think that would be really will help a lot in integrating health, social, and make everything sustainable, I feel.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just ask one question. When you train the nurses and other people, do you also train family members to take care of?
We do that.
Yes, caregiver training.
The training academy, we train formal, professionals, but we also train informal, the caregivers, volunteers.
Or you do have volunteers.
We also train seniors, 40 years and above. How do you prepare for your own retirement and old age? It's not just about health, it's financial adequacy. There is also how do you work on relationships and how do you manage your own psyche as you grow
Do you
older.
think we have that community ethos?
Actually, it is there. It's just that I think a lot of us do not know how to bring out the leadership in people, in the seniors. The methods cannot be top down. It has to be, you have to, maybe I can also share this. There's another, actually, WHO has many good resources. The latest come from the Director for Aging and Life Course, John Beard. He emphasizes self-care. This healthy aging framework, emphasis is on self-care. And in South Foundation, we did this called SCOPE, self-care on health for older persons, where older people sort of group together.
Self-care on
Health for older persons. So we call it SCOPE. So it's experimented in many SACs now. So it's a group of seniors coming together, a trained volunteer who works as a facilitator. There's a curriculum, 12 weeks, 2 hours per week, and they gather every week. And then they learn about how to take care of their own health. And after that, they become cliquish. They became friends, and they wanted to continue when the program has ended. So we added another curriculum. We call it guided autobiography, where they do live reviews together, and they start to connect with each other. And then they wanted to continue, and then we form into swing, where they come together and set their own agendas to improve on the community. And that is what we are doing in one.
That's what we call the kampongization.
Yes. So
Guided autobiography. Excellent word. Yeah. Can I stop you here and maybe could I hear from Jeffrey to share with us on the Ground Up initiative in Nisu, which is a Kampong Wellness project.
First of all, I think Ms. Chiang, I've only been to once the Kampong Wellness. I think that's by.
Just share whatever is on top of your mind. Don't worry.
I think I was the least deserving to be here, to be sharing, because I think I have the least experience of all. But I think I only can speak for myself when I've been there once myself to Kampong. Because I think like a lot of the industry experts have shared earlier on about building the community and building really the integrated system for the elderly within the community. I think that personally, I believe that's something very heartening to see. There's a whole spectrum of services being integrated together for them to be able to age in place. I think that's what I think there's a lot of initiative in the industry that's being pushed towards this direction as well. And I think I've seen the services being carried out with the elderly in the community during my visit there. And I think I have learned a lot from how they actually provide certain services specifically for the community within that area. And I think it's something that I hope that there will be more of such initiatives along as well.
So this is the model, and give me a feedback. Do you think whether this is feasible? 200,000 residents. I operate a hub, a center, with what you call center, but offer a call center with a computer or several computers connected to the residents who subscribe to become members of my center. So I know auntie, uncle, whoever lives in. I just need 10 people funded by the government or by sponsors from 10 people. And I create activities, program, home care volunteers to go to auntie, uncle. Now, aunties, uncles have got a spectrum of illness. Very sick, confined to bed, not so sick, ambulant, not very ambulant, whole lot of it. But they're connected technically by buttons, red, blue, yellow, whatever, to connect to my call center. Whether they need accompaniment, they need a meal, they need someone to help them bathe, or to come. Do you think this can work? Pause. So I'm now asking Her Excellency Paula Bergenia, who is in our midst from Finland, one of the pioneer countries in the world on digitization technology in home care and care for the senior. Let's hear her experience. In one, addressing the issue that I'm thinking of, the model I'm thinking of, and two, your response to what you have heard.
Yes, thank you for having me here. And as Claire said, Finland is the fastest aging country in Europe, and we've been facing this for a longer time already. And of course, Finland also is, we have the same population size as you, 5.6 million people. 5.6 million people in Finland, but the country is very big, large. And we do have our 12 seasons, which also makes it difficult for like you have to cater for all needs of that. But then the primary caretaker of the elderly people in Finland are the municipalities. The average tax rate in Finland is 42%. So we do expect a lot coming back to us. So the volunteer scene is not so alive and needed as it is in Singapore, which I think is one of the very big differences. So the municipalities are finding ways of making it easier for the elderly people to stay at home longer. So that is the primary goal of all these policies that we do. And also to start very much from the customers' needs. So they are being listened to, and we have these caretakers that are employed usually by the municipalities that go and visit the elders according to their needs, and their stage of health and all their needs. So the role of the family is less than what it is in Asian countries. So, and also because the country is large, so many of the families are not living in the same city, so they are only visiting during the holidays and so on. But of course, Finland is also a very technologically digitalized country, so we do have a lot of these these technologies that are being developed to help the elders and to help the monitoring of their homes and of their health. So we do have a lot of these like digital appliances and that are being now applied. So I think Claire's idea is very relevant and especially in Singapore where they are all sort of on a smaller, like place. So it would be something that could easily be developed.
Yeah. Of all the cities in the world, I feel Singapore with its density, 5.6 million people in this little small dot, it's the best model to looking at aging in place. All we need is broadband, right? Connection, and creating call center or command and control center to execute service. Don't you think so? The only thing is, where are the volunteers? Who are the trained personnel? How do we network all the resources to make it work? As you say, it's an integrated care. And in response to that model, which we are all very hot on because Disun Kampong Wellness have already done 3 centers. Sengkang Hospital is now attempting its 4th. And maybe Taiwan Kwan can even think of doing that in your area. And maybe Kawaisiu, and you're going to speak next, will be also the next one to do in this area. So we can have like 20 to 30 centers, each impacting on 100,000, 200,000 people. Do you think that can work? And what would be the challenges?
I think Claire, like to make that work, I want to invite Hui Xian, who looks rather scared. She is from SMU, and actually her center designs these devices that send signals to your hub. So this technology has already been designed and they have tested in different kampongs in Singapore already. And since I was getting signals from Truly over there that I am moving on to Roundtable 2 on the technology part, and Paula gave a great overview, I thought I should pass it to our very own experts in this first to talk about this.
Thanks for the arrow, Jiami. I'm actually here on behalf of Professor Hui Ping, who can't make it today. But basically, our lab is called ICT Lab. It's in-house in SMU. Our focus is actually on using technology to help elderly age in place. So one of the key things that we do is to actually place sensors in elderly residences. Yeah, so it's called Shine Seniors. When we started out, the basic premise was actually on alerting caregivers when something has happened to the elderly. For instance, when you press the panic button or when there's prolonged inactivity at home. So that was the original goal. Right now, we have moved beyond that to say that if we analyze the living patterns of the elderly, can we detect, for instance, whether their social well-being is deteriorating and so on. So that's roughly the key focus of the lab. I wanted to actually talk a bit more about what Wai Chong mentioned earlier on. So one of the key challenges that we face is actually related to the call center thing. So while I and my lab come from a very technology-focused direction, many times when an alert happens and it's after office hours, unfortunately our BWOs don't work 24/7. So after office hours, it is usually a best effort kind of thing, which is actually quite sad because if the elderly needs help at 12 midnight or 3 a.m., basically they have to wait until the next day. So the call center model is quite relevant, to be honest. Yeah.
You talk about 24 hours call center, like the helpline.
Yes. Can I shed
Yes,
some light about the call center? I just came from Philip Health and Innovation Center. Actually, they are already doing this. They piloted it with one insurance company, I can't remember, NTUC. They are, what Wai Chong is saying there, and then they are working with Changi General Hospital. They do have a call center, then it's located at Philip. And then they have 2 nurses to monitor the parameters. And then the computer pick up, they have to work out protocols like BP increase, medication not taken, or the blood glucose meter level rise, and then they will alert, they'll have a red indicator. So the 2 nurses who sit down there will call, and then remind them what happened. And then they are monitoring this. Yeah.
This is done in SGH.
Philips. ต่อไป
Okay. Do I make some comment? Yes, doctor.
Yeah, I want to put a twist to this paradox of this discussion about using this. I don't think there's a problem of technology. I don't think there's even a problem of getting it done. The problem is resources. Who is going to take the lead? Who's going to pay for it? And because of that, I wanted to also highlight, because you said three things that I would like to see.
Yes.
I don't want to talk about the services. I think all of us are champion here, have already mentioned. I think I just want to highlight Wai Chung's problem is that it surprised me, and also I felt very disappointed when Professor Bruce mentioned some of the things that are being done with this live panel. Nothing was done around ElderShield.
On the Elder Shield.
And yet, Singapore is going through these 2 years of looking at health financing model for the long-term care, and yet there is no public conversation. Everything starts from the cost. Because at the end of the day, when I talk about cost, I'm not just talking about one-sided where who pays for it. I think we are talking about the overall system where people must know how much this system costs. And then as a team, we then decide how much government should do, how much we should pay out from our pocket, how much insurance can come in. And yet, it surprised me and disappointed me is when we did the MediShield live, it was a Prime Minister's statement, many committees, and there were a lot of discussion. But when we do ElderShield, we do it behind the door. Yeah, we have public forum, but there's nothing in the media. And I'm saddened because for Prof, we have so many things. They talk about pioneer generation and everything. That 10,000 can be a very good bounce off on what they look at ElderShield and how they contribute. So that's the first paradox I find. The second paradox I want to highlight is that home care is not cheap. Okay? So don't get the notion that home care is not cheap.
It's cheaper than institution.
Not true. In Singapore, it's a paradox. That's why I tell you it's a paradox.
Right.
The second point about this paradox within in sub-segment is the way we look at the caregiver.
Right.
Singapore has unilaterally divided the caregiver element of foreign staff between health and manpower as two separate chunks. So to them, actually, they don't care. Every family, you want to get a foreign staff, a caregiver, go ahead and get. Whereas a healthcare worker, our strings are being tied. So the paradox for your comment is, if you can hire all the local to do your model, that's fine. The reality is you can't.
Yeah.
But then, every family can hire their own maid, but is that the right thing to do? Because total for so that's the second paradox. The third paradox is that, for me, is that it's very interesting. This was being spoken by the most senior physician in the healthcare and restructured hospitals. Nobody denied that we should do more prevention. We should do upfront. But we all must recognize that whatever we do, we are all going to die one day. And when we go to die one day, unless we have a magic pill that says, tomorrow I die, invariably there will be this thing called the tail end. And the tail end, nobody talks about it. You can be healthy, but one day you'll become frail. And when you become frail, what is that length? The length is not 1 year, 1 day, it can be 10 years. So no matter what we do up front, we will always have that 10 years behind. And therefore, that conversation of the 10-year course is unheard of in Singapore, and it saddens me because we're talking about ElderShield. So we can do all this nice kampong and everything. Invariably, an elderly will have the 10 years. And why the 10 years? Because our healthcare is so good. No matter what you do, the elderly will still have the next day. Because they will replace the hip at 90 years old. They will replace whatever organ you have. But then you still have the 10 years. So you can do all the beautiful prevention unless somebody would say, I decided to end my life at 99 years old. We still have the 10 years. So to me, I wanted to say a paradox is, by all means do all this upfront. My paradox is that we don't talk about the 10 years. And from the health financing and resource model, these 2 years, we have lost the window of opportunity. And I understand April, they're going to announce the ElderShield decision. Either you repeal Obamacare or you enhance Obamacare, I don't know. But we have lost that conversation because this is not about government, it's about all of us. At what stage you are, we must talk about that 10 years.
And that 10 years is not extended even
Yes.
further.
Yeah. And that one will come. I don't care how good your kampong is, you still have the 10 years and plus. And that one is money. So when you mention $91 in US,
Yeah.
$41 in US, Singapore nursing home, we add everything together, it's only 30,000. But then you times 10 years, it's 300K. Okay? So whatever it is, I'm saddened and disappointed, but also heartened because we had this forum. I don't know whether it's too late, but I think we must recognize these few paradoxes before we dive in there. Because these are actual paradoxes in Singapore. I'm not sure whether in Finland they may have this paradox because the foreign worker element may be different. The situation may be different, but I don't think I'm saying in a negative way that all the compounding we should do. But we must adapt this paradox because it will come. We can do all beautiful Nobel Prize winning on this front. We still have the 10 years. We still have to settle this caregiver element. We still have to settle the healthcare financing.
So
Actually, I'm looking.
you're not talking about MediShield.
I'm talking ElderShield. MediShield is to pay every single bill of the acute hospital.
Yes.
Make sure it's get paid. Nobody bothers about paying the bills in the long-term care. They expect charity to pick it up. And to be fair, the commercial sector also want to go to long-term care. I think they should.
So
Because
MediShield does not cover the 10 plus 10? No.
This long-term care insurance.
even MediSave, you cannot claim.
So why isn't that conversation brought up by the health?
Rahayu and I.
Yes.
No, because myself, I'm Rahayu, I'm from the Singapore Muslim Women Organization. I also sit in the, me and Wai Chong, we sit in the Edition Review Committee. So these are the kind of conversation that is happening. It is really happening for the past 2 years, and that's why April.
It's not loud enough.
Because
if Madam Chairperson is asking this, it's not loud enough.
No. I'm not old enough yet. It's only an excuse.
yeah,
It's my
but
ignorance.
honestly, all of us have concern, and it's not true that people are not thinking about that last 10 years. In the committee, I think Wai Chong, you fit in more, okay?
Focus group discussion.
Yeah, we reach, we very intensive focus group discussion, different demographic, and even we discussed about having it mandatory, but finally it's not going to be mandatory. It's very difficult because when you talk about mandatory, not everyone will be able to.
A lot of people protest.
Many people protest because, because the government said that we as a committee say that, to ensure that this last 10 years is be taken care of, so we make it mandatory. But again, in Singapore, every time when you have a top-down kind of thing, it's not going to work. There's conspiracy, there's, that kind of thing.
How do you make it mandatory? How?
Yeah.
But we make it for MediShield Life. What?
That was the proposal for mandatory was after the MediShield's model of scheme.
So the mandatory is talking about a per capita support by the government regardless. Is that what you mean?
No, maybe I just explain. ElderShield is really our long-term care insurance. The Singapore's version of long-term care insurance is you deducting MediSave every month to this particular insurance pool.
Yeah.
If everybody pays into this, the premium will be much lower.
Yes.
But because in our focus group discussions, there are some sector in our committee that they do not like big governments. They do not like mandatory payment of premium. So they prefer to manage their own resources to fund their own long-term care. And many of them do not realize that their long-term care is not predictable, like what Chi Chong says. Like if there are no dementia, you can probably live for 20 years that need caregiver support, and you may not realize that you can get dementia. Most of the time we talk to them about aging, sickness and death, they thought that I'll just die, I don't care, I don't really worry about that. But they do not know that it is not up to you to decide.
Therefore, the gap there is that there is not enough understanding
I think so.
of the policy to the middle class or those who need it to prepare for the 10 plus 10.
They need to understand policy. They also need to understand how
Whose job
people
is that?
age.
Whose job is that?
Life Planner's job.
Whose job is that to
Media is
I think in a way, what I like about the life panel especially is the fact that they are collecting so much data.
Yes.
I think one
It's
thing
invaluable.
one thing is that Prof mentioned here was how in life incidents happen in your life and how life impacting it is. I think that data is going to be very useful.
Yeah.
Because when you say, the husband has a stroke, then how does it impact the family? How does it impact the wife? Those sort of things, because the one life incident like this happens, one health incident happens, it shakes the whole family. It's not only the spouse, it's also the children, whether they are married or they are living together. The whole family is affected.
Bhavana is from Jamia, and
so I
Jamia
think
does
that
not.
their study will pull out a lot of info about this, especially since they're collecting it at such close intervals. This will sort of, I think, can be used to educate the public, like, look, this is what is likely to happen. If it's one health incident, one stroke in the family, and it's, even if you're a married child living away from your parents, you are still impacted by this, because then it becomes like, who's going to take care of the person? You know, that those sort of care issues, these are things that nursing homes are commonly facing with.
David?
Yeah, so whose job is it? So actually it's my job, right?
So you were the one responsible.
Yes, I'm the one responsible. I'm also, I think, the only person from government in here.
I think yes.
Right, I think that's right. So a little bit of what I do and why am I responsible and all that. So I'm with the Pioneer Generation Office. I think Claire has been visited by us before. I don't know if the other two pioneers have been. But what we do is basically I have 3,000 volunteers, 300 full-time staff, and they go every day to visit pioneers everywhere. So on average, I think every day we visit about 1,000 different pioneers, right? So volunteers is good. And when we do that, we have a conversation with them. We explain to them what is the Pioneer Generation package, how can you make use of it, where is your nearest clinic that you can get your benefits at, what is MediShield Life, how does it help you and protect you against big bills, and we collect feedback from them. We also find out about their health situation, their status. Are they frail? Are they living well? Do they have family members and all that? And in doing so, we try to form a map of what it's like all over Singapore. You know, where are the people who are living alone? Where are the people who have mobility needs? Where are the people who, for example, do not have kids? You know, need more support, stuff like that. Okay, we are a very young agency. Okay, it's only 3 years old. Only 3 years old. All right. So what we are in the process of doing, okay, I think this part is to kind of also answer a little bit of the questions that nobody remembers, and Claire's point about the future model. What we are doing thereafter, okay, having communicated all these policies to people, is we have experimented this in 3 different precincts. Tampines, Choa Chu Kang, as well as Marine Parade. Okay, we are trying to build communities of care. We call this a community network for seniors. And starting from February next year, we're trying to roll this nationwide. Wai Chung mentioned a lot about your kampong. Claire also mentioned, can we have different centers doing 200,000 people each and all. So what we want to do is every single precinct, we want to go down, okay, through the volunteers, sit down with the pioneers, anybody who's age 65 and above, and tell them, you know, in your particular community, okay, this is your nearest clinic, this is the nearest activity center, this is the nearest place where you can go, for example, participate in Qigong if you like it, right? And if you need help, this is the phone number to call. So actually we're actively signing up people for the Eastern Health Alliance, the call center, right? And then through that, get people used and accustomed to where they are living so that they can age well in place. We have just 3 simple objectives. People who are well, we want to keep them active, okay, and connected to the community. People who are alone, seniors who are lonely, we want to connect them with the community, right? And then for seniors who are frail, we want to get them the care and services they need. Okay, and through that, we are hoping to partner everybody in the community. That includes all of the people in this room, because like I said, we don't do any services. My outfit does not do anything. We don't do any serious work. We just talk to people. So through the information we have, we want to connect everybody to all of you guys, right? So just the ABCs for people who are healthy, we want to connect them to active aging services in the community, whether is it Ramio or whatever it is that you have. Okay, people who are lonely, want to connect them to befriending services that you provide, so they can get a friend, be slowly introduced back into the community, have their own community of friends. And then for those who need care services, whether is it upon delivering meals or needing help getting to the hospital, we want to connect them to you so that you can provide that service to them. And in the process of all this, we hope that we can also coordinate the service that's given to seniors in a much more even way. Because today, one of the problems is not that there's not enough help. The problem is that a lot of help is going to a particular segment, like 1-2 roomers. When I visit the 1-2 roomer seniors, they can show me like the 5 different, stacks of adult diapers that they have. They just keep coming, they give me more and more adult diapers. And then you can visit seniors in like 3-room flats, 4-room flats, supposedly well off because they have a big house, right? But they are not served. So we hope to even this out. And then when it comes to the part about technology, I think our plan is to complement technology with people. So what we want to have is, by number one, in the precinct level, build these communities of care. After my volunteers touch them once a year, on a once-a-year basis, we want to link them up with what we call the block reps. We're trying to work with MOH to make sure that every block has at least one person responsible, right? And then this solves the problem that Precinct mentioned about, like, after hours you call and there's nobody at the activity center. If you have a block rep, the person stays in the precinct, is just there, and then they'll be happy to go help. So to complement that, technology piece is really about, and the reason why it's difficult today is because of data privacy issues, but I want to give aggregated data to everybody in this room, so that you know where are the people who are frail, who are living alone, and then you can go serve them there, right? So aggregated data, we want to give it to everybody, and then we also want to find some way of bringing people onto a common platform where when you follow up with a particular elderly, you can kind of fill in what you have done, and then other people can see that. So we don't have this problem of 5 sets of adult diapers going to one person, right? And I think conceptually, it's not very different from what Claire mentioned. It's kind of like, I think the other way to say it would be kind of like, it's like a Grab service, right? And then my site will kind of put on the platform where all the people are who needs a Grab ride, in that sense. It's more like a care service. And then everybody here is like a Grab driver. You provide your services, and then you can pick up that particular senior, and you say that I'm going to help this guy. So since I'm going to help this guy, all the rest of you don't have to. And then through that way, we can have an almost real-time active system going around just helping people everywhere.
You said you don't deliver the service, and you don't have a service center.
Yes.
But you connect resources and service to get them to do.
Yes.
Do you fund also?
I do not fund. I do not have money.
But you find the sponsors to fund?
So everybody is that I connect them with, they get their funding from some other source like MOH.
So when you say you connect, who is the you?
No, the ambassador, the Pioneer Generation ambassador.
Okay.
So, Wai Chong, so one thing about Singapore, we're very good in terms of coming up with policy. But in terms of socializing policy, we just actually write on the the general media. So Wai Chong, we talk about this, so would it be the next agenda, next project will not be Pioneer will be going on, then probably Edishield comes out in
so
April,
when Edishield comes out,
then
my
Edishield
volunteers will sit down with the people it can benefit and talk them through what is Eldershield, what you have to
repeat
do.
the same.
Yes, and then if I just finish off with like one of the 3 things, right, that we sort of want to do. I think if I could just push this idea, which is that in this conversation, consciously or subconsciously, we talked about the elderly as a group that need to be helped.
Yes.
So the idea that I'm trying to push, and I've pushed that in many different places, is that the elderly is not a group waiting to be served. There are parts of this group that is waiting to be served. Maybe 2%, beyond the 2%, maybe another 20-30%. But the bulk of the elderly are able and strong. For example, my volunteer pool, 60% of them are above the age of 50. So it is a case of the elderly serving the elderly. So just since we have more elderly, right, by 2031 and 4, right, that just means we have more people who can serve the elderly. And we should view it with that lens. It is not just a problem to be taken care of, it is an opportunity waiting to be tapped. And if we can all view that from that lens, we can get the community to serve the community. Elders helping elders. And I think we will get a lot.
That's what we saw in Kampong Wellness, a 70-year-old buddying an 80-year-old in that neighborhood in Nisun to bring her down to take the pot of soup together. That's sort of buddy system we're talking about.
And we didn't start out trying to look for elderly volunteers. We started out trying to find anybody But we realize that elderly volunteers are especially good at what they do. Because
easy to communicate.
Yes, easy to connect, easy to communicate, greater empathy, they understand the issues, they understand the problem.
And dialects.
Yes, dialects.
Elder volunteers.
I just want to share. My mother, I was at my mother's place when your ambassador actually comes to my mother's house to explain to them. And I tell you, they just hit it.
Yes.
I was trying to talk to my mother, have you got this kind of thing? She just but once you have your ambassador coming to talk to her, she just sit and it just goes on like that. But what I'm struggling here, I'm hearing very good ideas, but again, who's putting all this together?
So we are trying to pull it together.
David, who is the we you're talking about?
We is
Pioneer generation.
we is my office, okay, together with
Which is?
Pioneer Generation Office, right?
Under?
Which is under Ministry of Finance and a little bit under
But
PA.
why then do you wear a label People's Association?
Okay, so Ministry of Finance as a ministry is not, a ministry is not well suited to hold an operational unit. I'm an operational unit because they don't, they don't have departments. So in order to be able to hold an operational unit like me, so we need the People's Association to provide me the corporate functions. I mean, just to give an example, Ministry of Finance, my outfit actually is bigger than the Ministry of Finance, the whole ministry. So therefore, it's very difficult for them to kind of support me in that sense. But in terms of it's the Pioneer Generation Office. We are working together with Ministry of Health. They're setting up an office called the Community Network for Seniors Office. Mm-hmm. And this is the outfit that will try to set up the communities of care everywhere. Oh. In fact, I think the Prime Minister announced this some months ago. And I think either in November or by next budget, we will make a bigger announcement about this. But we aim to go nationwide to work with everybody in this room and others beyond to build those communities of care.
Could you please remember Dr. Ao's 10 plus 10?
And
yes, I'm a colleague who's talking about that as well.
And can I also add another paradox? Because I've been a public servant, I've been a director of finance of ministry, so I'll mention paradox. And I agree with Rahayu. Singapore have this concept of many helping hands. Everybody accept that. But I can tell at a practical level, many helping hands doesn't really work at the ground. So what he's saying is that at the initial phase, I think we should support it and carry on. After a while, you ask yourself, why do I need so many civil servants doing all this? Shouldn't this be at the ground? The problem at the ground is, in Singapore, actually this work could have been done by the grassroots. But the grassroots and PA has slanted towards foreign integration and many other things. And that's the reason why it left to the VWO like us scrambling. And we as a VWO, we have to struggle our own resources. And we may be side by side. And exactly what Roy said, there's no central coordinator down there. And then now with this MOH scheme of tendering system, we beat each other. Actually, we are competing. But there's what they want us to compete. But then who is going to do it? And then I ask myself, you want a civil servant to go down and do this? Why should the civil servant wasting time? This is in the community. So this is whereby our community structure hasn't really adapted. We have town council, we have political leader, we have grassroots, we have the GRCs, CCCs, don't know what.
Never mind, today we have David. We have David to cut through all this.
So I will support his work, but at the end, it cannot be a civil servant. He must cut through all this and say, many helping hands doesn't necessarily always work. But you must find somebody to coordinate. If you want a VW to coordinate, fine. Then you must get a VW is big enough, and other VW willing to work with them. But you cannot be the one doing it all the way. So now, initial stages, I support you. Go ahead. At some point, the many helping hands need to reduce the many helping hands to get it done. This is a paradox.
Don't give up on the process. Correct. I think it is already unusual for small cities that like ours. We actually execute the many helping hands model. When I go Europe and talk about tripartism or our many helping hands, they all say, wow, if only we are that way. Instead of opposition fighting over a bill, try to put our heads together to look for solutions and move forward. Of course, in the process, you have got the David minus kind of people. But now we have David, the likes of David, someone who has a helicopter view. I think that's what we need. Helicopter view of all the issues. And then we will just try to make that work with all the good skills and hands, like, by John and all that. So there are 2 more last questions before you go that Jeremy wants to
I need
ask.
to redeem myself since we do have ElderShield.
Yeah, we've got good data on ElderShield participation.
In fact, if I may just correct myself, I think, here is the thing. Paula will back me up here. Every single country in the world with the aging problem has a household aging survey. This is separate from all the good work you're all doing, because you're all doing the important community and groundwork. But when it comes to financing, it needs to have something separate that sees that is the helicopter. Because otherwise, NOH has good data, PGP has data, you guys all have ground-out data. This is not linked to anywhere. We do have ElderShield, and if I may give Steve just 30 seconds to tell us an overview of our insurance, all the insurance. How many questions we asked regarding insurance and ElderShield?
Endless ones. It's really complicated, all the different elements of insurance that we collect. And I think we're at the early stages of analysing it, but it would be really interesting to explore and trace the impacts over time of participation in those schemes and see whether it's helping people finance all these things when they need them, and the extent to which that's mitigating the impact of not just the big health shocks, but also sort of staving off the decline into physical frailty and the social frailty and so on. So it's certainly early days, but we have a really clear picture on participation in those schemes. Would love to collaborate with people to do that work. Yeah.
I think in terms of the PGP papers, I will send it, and then David, we will talk. And again, I will spread my cards and happy to talk with everybody on this. I mean, again, we are not all people, so we obviously don't come from a community perspective, but I think you will all agree, and let me quote this from WHO. All the countries who have a good idea of health financing ultimately has a very accurate and large scale of data study. Singapore, if I may add, started us 2 years and a bit ago. I know PGP is around for 3 years, they're still older than us. So, we're already doing this month to month, give you the fastest, because Singapore works fast, you build a country in 50 years, so we have no excuse, right? But still at the same time this is all happening at the same time, and if I may reassure everybody, the fact that it is operating online, meaning certain questions can be added as the policy and landscape evolve. So that's not exactly my question, really. I take advantage of the fact that I'm supposed to be moderator and really giving further clarification. And then I think it's 5:07. Do you want to conclude, or?
Do you want to ask your 2 questions?
I think 2 final questions of mine. Sorry.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
David, we know your work. You know your work very well. Can I ask that you do implement the Many Helping Hands policy? You know what? You cannot work alone without MOH and MSF coming in. Now both sides, and I think in these chit chats we have, a lot is focused more on MOH. But I hear very little from MSF, of which we're very largely into. For instance, the senior activity centers, there was a lot of info. And we have people who go to the homes, to the frail and everything, I think you know, from your record. And we have these cluster services with all the case managers going around to help all those people. What are the services you need, and look and refer. So you cannot go without MSF. So please bear in mind that if you can, get the 2 ministries to work closer together. That's what I've been advocating. It's going to tally a lot of things together. Even our family service centers, we have a lot of people coming with a lot of problems. They will refer them to hospital, to CCC, to whoever it is. So don't forget that part of it. It's a very huge amount of work done there. So please, look at it, both MSF and MOH. Then you get a clearer picture.
Yes.
Okay, that's
So you're absolutely right, and that's something we're looking at. We're just thinking with health first, then thereafter we hope to move on to MSF, as well as thereafter retirement adequacy. But it's just that we want to start with health first.
Sure.
But I think that's a very good point.
Maybe you can be coordinator for both ministries. Make them work together closer better.
If I may just have on this question, actually, it's on the similar line, and if I may drag us back to Roundtable 2, I think Hui Xian actually mentioned a little bit of this question. We hear a lot of people here from the social area, And it's always impressive to hear about the ground community work here. But then I think what ministry level is concerned about is, and we are all concerned about, is how well social care, health care, and technology effectively come together. And if it does, which is the ideal world which we all want, what is the current landscape, or maybe do you all have some suggestions in terms of funding? Because ultimately it comes down to that. Any takers?
David? This agency is the best because you can integrate both health and MSF together. Yeah, because it's a finance-funded agency, more power. Every word he says counts,
My take is, even though we have this focus group, I think the discussion on healthcare financing must be in the public. At the end, every one of us at different age span, we must know what is going to happen, and then together collectively we can actually. So far, the focus group are done inside, but it hasn't been. The media hasn't really come forth, and I'm not sure whether it's really David's job alone. Because at the end of the day, if the public don't understand fully the requirement, like for me, I know I have to start saving. I don't care whether government gives me or not. I will start saving. I will start to buy my own insurance and make my own risk. But many do not know. This concept is a very ugly concept to say that you don't die tomorrow. Some people will say, I don't bother. But the reality is you're going to have a good life and you still have this, that, plus that. So my take is that whether it's David or not, I think we need all this as a public. Talk about it politically. They say this year we talk about diabetes. Please, nothing right wrong. Yeah, that's my thought.
This book, if you can catch it online by Go, Lee Gan, and Kwa Yi-Hiao and Shang Hai, lots of suggestions about university, like SMU should open up for people like us to come take up courses. Yes. And yeah, we propose that universities open their campuses, colleges, lecture halls, libraries to older people, so they will not miss out. And there are a lot of good suggestions here. So there are a few things that I hear, and I think one possible one I would like to work on from SFP's perspective is that home care. Yeah. How do we strengthen home care? How do we get people to the understanding of self-help and then home care and then integrated care by connecting the people? I think it is possible with technology, with volunteer training that we now know we can go to some foundation to do it, or joining the volunteer movement with Pai Ho Kwan or with the Jamia or with the University Association to execute and learn. Yeah? As to the financial literacy, I think we are very poor at that because the pioneer, the one that I came to my house to interview me, I have to take him on a bit about courtesy. There are two young men that stood outside my door. They said, hello, Miss Chiang. I said, yes, how old are you? So they are young people, but I feel that it was very good to have elder volunteers. There's something that we didn't think about. There's something that we could work on with Jamia, elder volunteerism. That old people are not there to be looked after. Many old people, look at all sorry, not nice, who could still contribute.
C3A, Circle of Third Age.
Circle of Third Age, that's right.
There's RSVP.
The RSVP too, yeah. But they somehow are not too active now in doing the volunteer work, going to do that. But I think explaining the safety net issue of insurance policies and Medicare issues is really needed. Because even in that 30 minutes, the young guy was trying to explain to me, first there are forms, like 6 forms. Second, the fonts of each form is so tiny. And for me to go through it, it really tires my patience. I gave all the feedback to the young man. He said, I'll go back and tell my boss. So it was tedious, it's arduous, it's really not age-friendly. Maybe there's something to look into. And you know, a lot of the home care patients, so-called, they actually don't care about this one, don't care about policy. They just want you to come. So that they're in touch with people, so that they are friends, right? They just want that someone to step up to lead them. So anyway, so elder volunteers is something that we can work on. Home care, that home model with couple wellness is something that SFP wants to work with various people. We're working with Rotary, we're working with sponsors to try to make sure that the 4th center, maybe the 5th center, the 6th, the 7th can be set up all around. So that is something that we are committed to for the next 3 years with the sensors that we can now put in the house to then connect people with all that information analytics. That's wonderful. Any other contributions? Yes?
I just want to add one more thing. Like, oftentimes, rather than looking like sort of what you said, rather than looking at those who are getting older as a problem or an issue, these are people with a lot of knowledge. They can give back to the younger generation. They can teach the younger people. My 83-year-old father does a lot more than I do at 50. So, I mean, I think it's just, we have to look at things
Elder
differently.
volunteerism is something that Singaporeans don't talk
And
about.
also learning.
Yeah.
I mean, who says you to stop learning when you're 20? At 60, again, tapping into what you're saying.
Yeah.
So using that population for the future generation, not saying, okay, they're older now, we need to take care of them.
Yeah.
Using them, and which Singapore is also kind of.
That's
looking
why
at.
SFP found a niche. If you look at our programs, we have a program called Conference on the Move. We actually take people to different ages, and the very touching one was last trip. We actually had about 60, 70 people visiting Republic Polytechnic, and there we're talking about nutrition, wellness, and health. And there was this auntie who met me in the toilet, and first she thanked me for giving her an opportunity without education to come to so-called a tertiary institution like Polytechnic, and to be with us to learn about health and nutrition. And we are there, we've got 5 different snippets of a lecture, learning how to do body work, learning what to eat, what are some of the myths of nutrition. We actually have done what I would say community education. We've actually drawn people to come to our programs to talk about community. Now that exactly, David, is what PA should do. People, he denies it. He is. Yeah. So I think PA should go out to the community, to do a lot more community to educate people about this, self-management. Yeah. So any other dying observations you want to share?
Can I share
Yes,
something
that
about,
is one.
I don't know, I mean, during my course of study in gerontology, I come across this interministerial committee that is being formed.
Yes.
That's throughout the years, and then right now it's a ministerial committee of aging. I believe it's sitting in the aging planning office. Yeah, so they do have an approach
Yes.
to aging issues.
Yes.
And then they have, I mean, to me, their policy is quite clear. And then they do carry out certain things like, housing for all seniors, opportunities for all seniors and healthcare for all seniors. But when it comes to implementations and then when it comes to actual nitty-gritty of things, that's where the whole thing lost in translation is so discoordinated.
Yes.
Yeah. So then I don't know whether anybody have influence on that.
I think ideation is always the most attractive thing. Ideation to talk, to get together is always easy. But without ideas, there's no plan. So you can't not do that either. That's why I think SFP is very specific. We want to get onto a project and then work ground up and see for ourselves what then will be the outcome. We are outcome focused, we are strategy focused, and we are outcome focused. So they become the measurables to demonstrate how that is workable. Why I think Singapore is such a wonderful test bed for it? Because China is looking for a model. Japan has its own, doing very well. Whole of Southeast Asia is aging, but not as fast, but they want to learn also from Singapore. So this is certainly something for us to all focus on, to develop something so that it can be exported with the help of other countries who are already developing countries with the technology, to support us to build that model. And I hope you all take on this optimism, that this is the best test bed because of our density, our smallness. Even though with our many helping hands, there are also many helping mouths. Everybody says different things. But it's okay. We can declutter by working on the project and start from there. Don't talk on more ideas. So no one can influence on that because they will talk. Because there will be many more committees. There will be many more interministerial committees. but that's the leadership. On the ground, we work with the Tao Kwan, we work with the Wong Kai Siu, Go Wai Siu. We work with Jamia and find out what do people need. Then we just start a program, and then we demonstrate it, and then we talk about it. There will be funding, there will be sponsorship. One thing I like in Singapore is that once you have done something that you can demonstrate outcome, it becomes a compelling proposition, and that was the support.
Claire, can I say something?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm coming from an organization. We have a Family Therapy Institute. We work with families who are actually on the crossroad of breaking down. And one of the factors that we find out is because of actually caregiving of the elderly, that family decided to break, And this is where we want to work with people who are working, with caring of aging, so that how do we actually counsel family members who actually have difficulties, how to actually talk to them in terms of the different kind of services that they can actually go and seek help, so that it doesn't burden them that to the extent that they actually want out of the marriage, because they just want to be away, from the responsibility.
Okay. So the other objective of today is not only to have the discussion, is that you in the industry, we hope that you become friends. So you should meet with Bhavana and then meet with Wai Chong, talk. Find some of the issues which you think are needed, go to David. And David, with our you can come to us, SFP, and then we will use our influence and advocacy, then go to the ministries. This is the voice of community, you can say. That is how we hope to work. So please do it. Let's have some tea and get to know each other. Please exchange name cards. And thank you for sharing this with us. This is a wonderful, what I would call a community networking. I hope you see that and enjoy.